Hey, family, friends, and followers. How are you guys doing? Today I'm taping from the inside because outside it's raining and it's cold and it's miserable. So last week I started this again, this video blogging or podcasting, whatever, depending on the medium that you hear this at. And one of the things I wanted to mention is that this video blogging is much more difficult than just podcasting from a perspective of post production or post editing and those types of things. So this has been a really learning experience for me. Not only the size of the videos are much larger, and then the video takes a little bit longer to edit, as well as some of the imperfections. A lot of the imperfections show up. So perhaps I can talk a little bit more in a different session about that, some of the tools that I use and things like that. Just came back from a week of work out in the United States, and it was an interesting week. And I would like to tell you a little bit about it. First of all, Monday, I was planning to go to San Diego, and the flight got canceled because of all the challenges with weather. It was my airport here in Seattle was completely and totally fogged in, and there was a delay in flights and basically got canceled. So I had to restart the week rearranging my travel schedule. So I end up doing all the meetings that I had on Tuesday in San Diego virtually, and then I took the red eye to Rhode Island, where I had a series of meetings there Thursday and Friday. So what it was interesting is, if you think about this, I didn't do it because of the flight cancer. Seattle to San Diego, it was supposed to end up in Atlanta to Rhode Island to Detroit to Seattle. It would have been a complete trip around the United States this week, and unfortunately it didn't happen. I ended up doing Seattle to Atlanta to Rhode Island to Detroit and then back to Seattle, missing the entire southwest of the United States. But I'm still hopeful. I've done it a couple times in the past, so it's long flights, but definitely always interesting to have that circle around the United States. I thought you would find that interesting. Speaking of Providence is such a beautiful place, Providence, Rhode Island. The fall leaves, the old neighborhoods, everything is, I think a lot of the stuff started out there in the East Coast, the Boston area, of course, all of that. Fantastic food, of course, great people, and lots to talk about. And of course, the Red Sox were playing there. We didn't get the chance to make it. The tickets are way too expensive for me, and but it was all about the Red Sox game over there, the World Series. So we had some good time, good customer conversations. Again, developing friendships for a lifetime and those kinds of things was always interesting. Speaking of friendships, a couple of small, tiny stories regarding a couple of good people that I met on the flights. I'm the type of guy that sometimes I go ahead and put my earphones on, want to watch the movie, listen to some music, and basically don't talk to anybody on the planes. Other times, people interrupt me or just want to talk or things like that. But other times, I do it's interesting to pick and talk to other people. This trip was one of those trips in which I end up pinging people sitting next to me and say, hey, how are you doing? Where are you home? Kind of small talk. But the two conversations that I had, two different flights that I had, was interesting because on the first flight, it was a gentleman that worked in the auto industry. Older gentleman, almost, I wouldn't say to the age of retire, but senior in his company. And he was telling me about his company, how they grew from in 1973 or 68, whatever it is, the date, and they grew the company not through acquisitions or anything like that, but just basically growing the company little by little. And they are now in 68 companies. He's part of the board and things like that. But it was very interesting gentleman because all the stories, and we got into the conversation about millennial. and the new people that are coming into the workforce as we speak, as we are, and how we mentor and how we work with them and those kinds of things. Completely different work styles for myself or for himself, or even something that is very, very different. And I told him about my story that I been working with a millennial here. Hi. To his credit, we were not getting very well early on. And to his credit, he offered to be my millennial mentor. So I have a millennial mentor, probably one of the few people out there that have one, but thanks to my very good friend. And it's worked out ever since he started doing that. He's actually been telling me, training me, getting his, not training me necessarily, but just getting his point of view. And I've been, it's been great. It's been actually a very good conversation to have. I'll write something about this. Or vlog a little bit more about this in a future video. I think that's a very cool thing that he suggested we do. He, my friend, the gentleman that I just spoke with in the plane, thought that was a fantastic idea. And he was going to kind of see how he can implement some of those concepts about basically it opens up a line of conversation instead of being such a rigid organization or rigid communication style, or thinking you're right, you're wrong, I'm right, I'm wrong, those kinds of things. It actually, the mentorship concept of the new generation coming in, as well as the experience of the older generation, that needs to mesh very well in the future state. Now, he was telling me that they're not very much in the social media space, and you guys know that I dabble in between the two of those. But he was definitely open to doing that. He also told me a very interesting, he works, one of his customers is a very large organization called Penske. And he told me, not much about Penske, but just as a fun thing, he said that Penske just bought the rights to Hummer vehicles, the Humvees. And they're going to make it a luxury car moving forward, to the one catered to the 1% of the 1% kind of thing. So the Hummer is not a dead brand or anything like that. It's coming back. So we joked about being able to afford one of those at some point. It was expensive already to begin with, but definitely I think it's going to be more expensive. But it's what a fun car to have and to take off road and those types of things. Again, completely random conversation, completely random, just because I didn't want to watch any more movies. In fact, one of the things that is happening to me is I travel, as I travel a lot, I've seen all the freaking movies on the screen on the plane. So I'm done with movies for a while, so I can catch up and maybe see some of the movies on the plane again. So the second person that I met was even more interesting in my book. Both were very interesting, but in my book, this was interesting. Do you remember just recently, a movie called Game Night with Jason Bateman and a couple other people? I mean, it was a great movie. My wife even liked it. It was one of those movies that it was entertaining, funny. Jason Bateman is always funny. And there was a lot of conversation after the movie about how cool will it be there. Well, this gentleman that was sitting next to me, again, just one of those, hey, conversations out of the blue. Hey, how are you doing? Thank you very much. Not thank you, but where are you coming from? Where's home? Are you going home? And that kind of conversation. And he led to saying, what do you do? What is it you do? So I told him what I did. And he told me, I'm the CEO of Hunt a Killer. And I said, what? I'm sorry, what was that all about? Yeah, Hunt a Killer. It's a game that crosses virtual to physical, and it basically is the combination of the two games. So of course that triggered the thought of my mind of Game Night, and same concept. So I asked him, have you seen that movie? Oh yeah, absolutely. That is not exactly what they do, but it's very much the same concepts. He's been doing it for 4 years, going at this, maybe more, he said. But in any event, he just recently moved over to the Seattle area, and so we started talking about the Seattle area and how cool of an idea is that. So basically, you will receive every, I think, week or every month a package, and it will contain clues, and the community, it gets involved in that scavenger hunt associated with it. I don't know much about the details of this, but it is absolutely a fantastic idea. I think it cost, I don't know, 30 months a month or something like that. I checked the website, but I haven't really subscribed yet, but I definitely want to subscribe to this. But we talked for the entire flight about the concepts and the entire conversation about this, the concept of matching virtual versus reality, and all those elements associated with that. Huntakiller.com is the thing, and I'll let you know in a future video when we subscribe. I came back telling my wife about this, and she says, "Oh, how creepy." But it's kind of interesting. It could be interesting if it is not that creepy, if it is well done. And I'll report back on those things. So that's my week. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any questions or have any ideas. As I have talked in the past, in fact, in the first videos, in the first podcast series, the audios that I did, this is not intended for anything else but to teach me how to be a better person behind the camera, a better person behind the microphone, and that is what I am trying to do. I am trying to become much more natural at this. Experience or practice makes perfect, so I'm trying to get my 1,000 hours on this behind this thing. So I really appreciate you listening, you following me. If you have, if you are listening to this on the podcast, please check my YouTube video. Or my YouTube channel. If you're looking at this in the YouTube channel, you have the full experience, so you don't need to go back to the podcast. But if you do go, again, both are in the jorgep.com website. Cheers.